Josh, what is the one silver lining, if any, that you'll take away from 2020?
Well, I'm going to answer that on a personal basis. Early in the coronavirus situation, my daughter was quite depressed. And the reason was because she was separate from the person that she loved. And I made the decision to invite that person to live with us. Somebody who's very different from the rest of our family. And there's now 5 of us here, the 4 of us in my family, and this one person who I invited. And that's been an incredible relationship for us all to have. So I think what I learned is that when you're cooped up in a space with a bunch of people and you can't get out much, you can support each other. You can care about each other. You can have a rich experience. And I will never forget this time. It's been a rich and powerful and exciting time for me. It hasn't been so bad. Luckily, nobody really close to me has suffered from the disease, and I was able to have this experience of sharing our lives with somebody new.
That's a great question. I think it is about customer centricity. I think it is about real authentic dialogues with customers. I think so much of marketing is MarTech, all about MarTech, right? And so I think too many marketers for too long have been talking to consumers and customers, real people, behind computer algorithms and not really getting out. So even though getting up close and personal, so even though we're not allowed to get up close and personal any longer, I think we've paused all the automation and really have had more authentic dialogues with our customers. So to me, it's the return to customer focus, which is the fundamental of all good marketing.
Well, I mean, I maybe I have 2. One, just on a personal note, I welcomed a new baby on April 22nd, and that was thank you. That was the peak of the pandemic, the first wave in New York City, and so I feel really, extremely blessed and just overwhelmed just by that's been the silver lining throughout. That every time, I can just go back to this precious being. But the second thing, too, is just on a more professional level or career level, is that it has opened up doors in terms of the way we think about our interactions with our clients, And one of the first things we did was to run a workshop around, storytelling in a time of isolation. And we offered that for free, and people came from all over the world. And suddenly we had these new connections that we would never have made, by running a workshop in person in New York City, which is what we had planned to do. I think it was March 15 was the date. It was the day of the lockdown, the first lockdown in New York, March 18, that we were going to do an in-person workshop. And we quickly replaced it and found this kind of theme that we all felt was the right theme and the right tone, and all these people showed up. And that's kind of been the theme throughout, is that people are showing up in ways that I hadn't expected, thanks to technology. And we're finding new and creative ways to use storytelling and listening through technology, which has its own set of challenges, but also great opportunities. So that's definitely been a silver lining.
Yeah. Can I give you my answer? My answer is the election of Biden and Harris, because we're getting rid of a madman who would have destroyed the country, especially if he had 4 more years. So that's the silver lining.
What about you, Mr. Godin?
I think it forced a lot of people to make friends with themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Always have a plan B. I started this year having just raised a seed round for a company whose primary product was an event. And here we are at the end of the year with a thriving networking community of people committed to doing the very thing that we were just trying to catalyze the conversation around with an event. And yes, unfortunately, COVID was the thing that catalyzed the conversation and made us realize just how intersectional all of these issues are, not just with each other, but with business. And, again, it's just, we had that as part of our plan the network, the community, the learning platform. But it was our like kind of next phase of development. But because we were prepared for that, we were able to pull those plans forward. And so I'm not saying plan for a pandemic or even plan for the worst, but just, again, the trick of starting anything is to be agile enough, to be nimble enough, to go where the tide is going, to go where the momentum is going, and to know that that could change on a dime. And to not have it undermine every great idea that you thought you had. So it's a very humbling experience for me to think I was so right and then turned out to be so wrong. But that's how you get better. That's how you iterate. And if you think about everything that you do as a product, it makes the feedback that you get from putting that product out there that much more important. So every time, for example, I get an opportunity to speak to you, Joe, in public, I will take it because I've learned even things about what I wrote that land differently when you say them, frankly. And so again, it's important to get those signals out there so you can even know what the noise
Right.
is.
Always be open to possibilities and always have a plan B, because if you don't have a plan B, you know who's coming for you. Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
The silver lining is the idea that you no longer have to have, there's no excuses at all to not reconnect with those you actually want to reconnect with. And what a gift it is to be able to have technology that lets us look at each other face to face in a way that, I know we all have Zoom fatigue. We all, trust me, we're doing it all the time. But, for me, the silver lining is being able to do things like this, or to hopefully be some type of a sounding board. I don't even like to think of myself as a mentor. I'm just a good listener. Like the thing my dad always said, when you love someone, the one gift you can give them is time. It's not monetary, it's not things and all this, but the gift you can give them is your time. So if you truly love someone and you truly want to get to know someone, give them your time. And my dad, he's a sage when he says that kind of stuff, because obviously when he's telling me this, he's giving me his time. So I've tried to do that. And that's why the silver lining for me is reconnecting, believe it or not, even with my daughter. It's like she's over here she's going to make her own lunch in a minute. So the idea of self-sufficiency and not having all the other things and people doing things for you consistently has been a gift through this as well. Me has been the most transparent and true era, I think, of people, for good and for bad, by the way. When you have time to reflect and think, some bad stuff sometimes comes out with people too, and that's fine as well, but at least you're being honest.
Gosh, I think there's a couple different ways that I could answer this. I mean, I know for one, I am so appreciative of all this time that I've been able to spend with my daughter, that as difficult as it may be to work from home during a pandemic like this, I have seen so many moments of learning, of realization, of growth and change in her that surely would have happened at daycare while I was working otherwise. And so that's been magical. But I think the other thing is it's restored some of my faith in humanity, and that like the way that people have kind of come together to help each other, the resilience that so many of us have shown. There's lots of ways we haven't handled this particularly well as a nation, but I think individual people have certainly showed their ability to care for and help and celebrate others.